First, I would like to introduce Mr. Gary Richmond, a smoke-free all-star, a business owner who supported the idea of smoke-free establishments well before the law was ever in place. Mr. Gary Richmond.
Breathe in, breathe out. I am truly ecstatic to be here today on this celebration. Truly I am. In 1996, I opened the doors of Johnny Mango, Oakland, Ohio, and served as its owner-operator for 14 years before selling my shares a few months ago. Back in 2004, I conducted an email polling of our best customers, our frequent diners, and they made a mandate that was loud and clear. They wanted Johnny Mango to become a smoke-free establishment. So, one warm August evening, we closed the doors a bit early, ordered out for pizza, and the employees scrubbed the walls and floors of the cafe, and the next morning opened the establishment as a new pioneering entity, a smoke-free Johnny Mango. The results were immediate and astonishing. I'm talking about nearly double-digit increase in sales over the first 6 months since the transition. An increase in our customer demographics of broadening to include elderly and young children with their parents. And I remember looking over the payroll ledger nearly a year after the transition day and discovering, except for one employee who was a seasonal patio employee who went off back to college in October, we had lost not one person on our payroll, on our staff. This coming in an industry that is beleaguered with high employee turnover. So when our friends at the American Cancer Society and their affiliates launched the Smoke-Free Ohio Initiative campaign, you can bet that I was on board right away. And what a campaign it was. An exercise in true grassroots democracy, for not only while we were collecting signatures were we securing its placement on the ballot, but we were inspiring conversations across dinner tables, among churchgoers, within civic club meetings, and of course in restaurants and bars. And on November 7th in 2006, Ohioans strapped on their boots to wade through the swamp of misinformation and deceit planted by the tobacco cartel and came to vote no on 4 and yes on 5. It was Ohioans stating loudly and clearly, and there was no Monday morning quarterbacking as in our most recent election where pundits were trying to determine what the voters really meant. This was loud and clear. Ohioans saying, we will not be assaulted with the dangerous weapon of secondhand smoke ever again. Not in our communities, not in our cities and towns, nowhere in our grand state. And what has changed since? For me personally, before the campaign was launched, I spoke at a meeting in Lakewood, my city, and it was a situation far more hostile than this, a public meeting with the council chambers packed to the gills, and my peers, each one of them, dozens of them, getting up to make statements predicting their own demise, as well as some of them, the demise of an entire society, because we would have the nerve to ask smokers to go outside to enjoy their cigarettes. Within a week of that presentation, I awoke one morning to find that my car had been singled out on a street full of cars and peppered with eggs, restaurant fast food smeared on all of its windows, and a leaf of lettuce fluttering in the grill. So I exacted my revenge, as any citizen would do. I washed my car. And it happened again. And I washed the car again. And it happened again, and again, and again, and again. And I'm pleased to announce since Election Day '06 that those acts of mischief have ceased. The downside is I haven't washed my car in 4 years. And on one of those nights of vandalism, I assume the same miscreants drove to the restaurant and sliced the tires of the company van parked outside the restaurant. And one evening, my wife and I sitting like bookends on the sofa with our 2 young daughters between us watching the pre-bedtime TV program when someone under the cover of darkness sneaked through the front yard and threw, you guessed it, a tray of fast food onto the living room window just a few feet from the back of our heads. It was a frightening thud, but we survived. And I dedicated my efforts to those 2 young children sitting there between their parents, the bookends having over 50 years of restaurant experience between them, and the girls literally between them, knowing that they may add to that total when they become of working age. I also dedicated my energy to Ohio's 500,000 plus. You see, while we were campaigning, the National Restaurant Association estimated there were 535,000 Ohioans employed in our taverns and restaurants. And that number increasing annually. And I'd like to add that that segment of the workforce almost entirely without health care insurance. We need to praise Ohio's restaurant and bar workers today because they, more than anyone else, realize that it's not right to have to make a choice between good health and a paycheck. They are the ones who have taken our law, the people's law, beneath their wings and enforce it day by day, every minute. You see, for restaurant workers in Ohio, the menu has changed. The toxic soup of secondhand smoke and its 50-some carcinogenic ingredients have been replaced with fresh air, the special of the day, today and each and every day. It seems like so long ago. It seems like ages ago when the collective social intellect allowed secondhand smoke to exist. It seems like the Dark Ages, way back. The Dark Ages when you would push open the door to a restaurant. Smoke hanging in the air like dragon's breath, ready to rip away our innocent health. Hanging in the air like dragon's breath, waiting to tear apart our quality of life. Hear ye, that dragon slain. Ugly, fiery head to rise no more. Breathe in, breathe out.